Today we're gonna make a backpack or rucksack. So here's the backpack that we're gonna make today. The dimension of this backpack is 13 inches by 14 inches and the depth is 5 inches. I would say this is more on minimalistic or modern looking backpack. It's not like the traditional backpack. There's not much fuss going on, so it's pretty easy in construction. It's great if you are a confident beginner. A couple of exterior pockets here where you can put perhaps your sunglasses or cell phone. Inside you've got 3 slip pockets and 1 zipper pocket. So enough of me talking, I don't want to take your precious time any longer. Let's get started to our tutorial. Prepare 26 pieces of 1-inch strips. The length of each strip is about 13 inches. I'm using 3 different kind of fabrics here, but you can do more. You can go as scrappy as you want it to, so just have fun with your fabric choice. Then you want to lay them out just like so. There is no particular order that you have to follow. I simply alternate each strip to get more interesting look. Once you're happy with the layout of your fabric strips, go ahead and start sewing them. You're going to sew them, of course, with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Then go ahead and press the seams open. So here I've got my strips already sewn together. If your fabric turned out to be a slight wavy, don't beat yourself up. This happens all the time when we sew a bunch of strips together, and especially with this project, the strips are very narrow. Now I'm going to rotate this fabric just like so, and then we're going to straighten up the edges first. So I'm gonna start off with the edge from my right hand side. So I'm just gonna take my ruler and trim about 1/4 inch away just to straighten it up. Then I'm gonna turn this to the other side. You wanna line up the edges that we just straightened up to the line of your cutting mat, just like so. And then you wanna measure 12 inches and then cut. Now from your right hand corner, measure 3 inches. And then you want to position your ruler on an angle from that 3-inch point to the upper left corner of this fabric, just like what I'm showing you here. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and cut. So we're only going to use this piece, so you can discard this one here. Now go ahead and layer this with the quilt batting and the lining piece for your flap. And then of course we're gonna proceed and quilt this piece. I'm using my walking foot here. I started with the stitch in the ditch just so the stripy patchworks kind of pop, and then I did some wavy lines to add more texture. Obviously you can do any design that you like with your preference quilting method, so just have fun throughout the project. Now that we've got the flap quilted and all the excess backing and batting already trimmed, we're going to bind this with the bias tape. So my bias tape is 3/4 inch wide, and I'm using this one. I think this is the most common one. You can find this pretty much everywhere, like Joann, even Walmart as well. So I'm gonna open up one of the fold of this bias tape and then line that up with the edge of my flap, just like so. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start stitching from that fold line. Since the width of my fold line here is about 3/8 of an inch, once I approach the corner 3/8 of an inch before I got to the corner, I stop stitching, lift my presser foot, pivot my fabric at the 45 degrees angle, and then continue on stitching. Then as usual, you're gonna form your corner, forming that 45 degrees triangle corner, just like so. Then you wanna go ahead and start stitching again right below that triangle fold line. As you are approaching the other corner of your flap, you're gonna do pretty much the same thing. However, you're going to fold the corner at 30 degrees. Just like so. It may differ with you. I'm not a mathematician, but you get the idea. So you just want to angle that to make sure that your strip is still aligned with your flap. I hope that makes sense to you. Now go ahead and continue on stitching. I'm going to finish up my binding with hand stitching because I want the nice and clean finish for this flap. You can also do edge stitch instead of hand stitching. That shouldn't be a problem as well. Now we're going to work on the front pocket. So prepare your pocket piece, and then we're going to sandwich this with the quilt batting and the quilt backing. Then go ahead and quilt this. So I'm still using my walking foot. However, I simply do straight-ish stitches about half an inch distance from each other, and I simply love the texture that I got. Now we're going to bind the upper edge of this pocket piece. So I'm going to use the same bias tape. This time though, I'm going to do a shortcut in attaching this bias tape. So I simply wrap it up on the edge of my fabric, just like so. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sew along the edges of the fold line. So I do this method for the pocket piece simply because I want to save some time, and also with the pocket it's a lot simpler because there's no corners that I have to deal with, and the wrong side of this pocket piece isn't gonna be exposed whatsoever because of course it's a pocket, so you don't really take a peek on the wrong side. So you want to do the same thing with your front and back exterior shell. So go ahead and layer them with the quilt backing and the quilt batting and quilt them in the same manner. And this is how mine turned out, and this is how it looks on the wrong side. So for the wrong side, you can use any kind of fabric, use cheap fabric or any fabric that you have in your stash that you just wanted to get rid of. Now you want to take your front exterior shell and then fold that in half, just like so. Then you want to mark the center point of this piece on the upper top. Then you want to take your flap and do pretty much the same thing. So find that center fold. Then you want to lay your flap on top of the front exterior shell, just like so, aligning that center point about 1 inch further from the upper top of your front exterior shell. Then you want to take your front pocket piece and position that on your front exterior shell the way it should be, just like so. So what we're gonna do right now is to determine the position of the placement for the Velcro. So once everything is properly placed, you want to take your fabric marker, then you want to mark where you want the hook of your Velcro fastener to sit. There is really no rule for this, but I recommend to do it like about an inch below the edge of your pocket, a little bit towards your right hand side, and not so much on the center of your pocket, because we're gonna stitch that down to divide this pocket, and you don't want your Velcro to somewhat interfere with the division of your pocket, if that makes sense. We will use the sew-on Velcro fastener. The rougher side here, they call it the hook, and the softer side is called the loop. Right now we're going to install the hook first. Cut about 2.5 inches wide of your Velcro hook. And then you want to take your fabric basting glue and then apply that just a little bit on the wrong side of your Velcro hook to keep this temporarily in place. So place your Velcro on the mark, and then if you see there's a little bit of blue residue here, don't worry about it, it's gonna disappear over time. Right, now go ahead and sew along the edges. Now you're going to lay your pocket piece on the right side of your front exterior shell, aligning the bottom part with the front exterior shell, obviously. Then sew on the sides with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Lay your ruler on the center of your pocket. So I simply measure 7.5 inch, so that's going to be right on the center. And then you want to draw a line just like shown here. Then you want to sew right on the line. Start sewing below your binding, so you don't want to sew over the binding. Now we're gonna work on the straps. So you wanna cut from the width of your fabric 2 strips measuring 4 inches wide. When I say the width of your fabric, I'm referring to fabric that is about 44 inches wide, which is pretty common in the quilt weight fabric. Your strips should end up 42 inches long after you cut off the selvage ends. Then you're going to interface this with the fusible interfacing that you cut 2 inches wide. You want to place the interfacing half an inch away from the edge of your strap, and obviously you can cut several strips instead of one long strip for the interfacing. Now go ahead and fuse your interfacing on the strap according to the manufacturer's instruction. So here I've got my strap already interfaced and pressed. So I've shown this method so many times in my back tutorial. First, you're going to fold the end of your strap towards the inside about half an inch, just like so. Do the same with the other end of your strap as well. Fold your strap in half first and press, and then fold the edges of your strap towards the center fold, and then you fold everything in half again. So you're gonna end up with 1 inch strap. Then go ahead and sew along the edges with 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance. Here I've got my straps already sewn and ready to go. Next we're going to work on the backpack hanging loop. So go ahead and cut your fabric and the interfacing as well. And then you're going to press them pretty much the same way with the strap, although you don't have to fold the raw edges in. And then you're going to sew along the edges with 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance. And you're gonna end up with something like this. Then you're going to sew this hanging loop on the upper top of your back exterior shell, about 6 inches distant from both sides. So you only need to sew this with 1/4 inch of seam allowance just to tuck it in place. To place the straps, you're going to measure first 4 inches from both sides of your back exterior shell. Then you're going to take your strap and lay that on the mark just like so. Then take the fabric clip to hold that in place, and you want to do the same as well for the other side. Then go ahead and sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. For the hardware, we're gonna need to use 2 D-rings, or you can also use rectangular rings, doesn't matter. They should measure 1 inch. And then you're gonna need also 2 adjuster slider measuring 1 inch. Cut 2 webbing straps measuring 12 inches long, and obviously the width should be 1 inch. And then you're gonna insert that to the D-ring just like so. Then you're going to stitch as close as you can to the D-ring. Place your webbing strap at the lower part of your bag 4 inches away from the sides. Then you're going to sew them with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Next, we're going to insert the adjuster and connect these upper and lower straps together. Hold your adjuster slider right side up, and then you're going to insert the strap from the wrong side towards the right side and then back to the wrong side, just like shown here. Then you're going to pull a good amount of strap so you will have enough room to wiggle. Then you're going to insert the end of your strap into the D-ring from the outside towards the inside, just like so. Meanwhile, you're just gonna make sure that there is no twist with your strap, so always double check. Now you're going to insert the end of your strap to the bottom part of your slider. To make it easier, you're going to loosen up the strap a little bit from here, just like so. Then go ahead and insert the end of your strap. It may get a little tricky, but with a little bit of wiggle, you can do that. So you want to have about a couple of inches of clearance. You're going to stitch the end of the strap to the lower part of your strap, the one that's sitting underneath. So you're simply gonna sew 2 lines to secure this in place. You're going to stitch back and forth about 2 to 3 times to make sure that your strap has extra bond. And voila, the strap is done. And this strap is also adjustable, so you can lengthen or shorten it according to your need. Next, we're going to attach the flap to the back exterior shell. So you want to lay your flap right side down on the right side of your back exterior shell, and obviously you're going to have to center the position of your flap, and I've actually put the center point mark on both the back exterior and the flap as well. And then go ahead and put some fabric clips to secure them in place, and then you're going to sew along the edges with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Since this area is very bulky, I recommend to change your needle to a size larger. In this case, you may want to use the denim size needle. Draw 2.5 inches squares on both bottom corners of your back and front exterior shell, just like shown here. This is to create that boxy look at the base of the back. Then go ahead and cut. Lay your front and back exterior shell right side together. Secure them in place with some fabric clips, and you also want to make sure that your straps are out of the way. Then you're going to sew along the sides and the bottom with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And of course, you still want to use your denim size needle for this. Next, we're going to box the corners of the back, so open this one up and match the seams just like so. And then you want to secure this in place with the fabric clip, and then go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Now that we have assembled our exterior shell, you can go ahead and turn this piece inside out just to make sure that everything is looking alright so far. Next, we're going to work on the back interior, so prepare the lining and your facing as well. You can skip the facing and cut one full lining piece instead. Lay your lining and your facing right side together just like so. And then you want to go ahead and sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. So you're going to end up with something like this. Next, you're going to prepare the slip pocket pieces, so lay them right side together and then go ahead and sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done that, you want to go ahead and press the seams open. You can use the seam roll, it will make it a lot easier. Then turn this piece inside out, smooth everything out, and you want to give this another press. Once you've done that, go ahead and top stitch on the upper edge of your pocket. To divide this pocket into 3 slots, you're going to draw 2 lines. Each line should be 5 inches away from the sides. This will make each pocket slot to be 5 inches. Lay your pocket piece on the right side of your lining piece, about 5 inches away from the top. Place a couple of pins to secure that in place, and then go ahead and sew on the lines and the bottom as well. Next, we're going to work on the zipper pocket. So prepare your zipper pocket pieces and your zipper. It should measure at least 7 inches. And then you're going to draw the zipper template. Draw a rectangle measuring 7 by 1/2 inch. Then you're going to draw a horizontal line right on the center. Then you're going to draw a diagonal line on the corner measuring about 3/8 inch. Then you're going to place this on the right side of your lining piece, obviously with the template facing up, about 4.5 inch away from the top. Then go ahead and sew on the outer lines of your template. Once you've done sewing, go ahead and cut the center line and the corner diagonal lines as well. Alright, now you're going to turn this piece to the wrong side. Open up the cutting lines just like so. Finger press that a little bit, and then you want to go ahead and press this with an iron. So you're going to end up with something like this. Now you're going to turn this piece to the wrong side. Smooth everything out, and then go ahead and give this a quick press. Next, we're going to baste the zipper. As usual, I'm going to use my basting tape here. You can also use fabric glue basting or baste the zipper with hand stitching, whichever method you prefer. Alright, now I'm going to peel the backing paper off. Now I'm going to take my lining and then lay the template right on the zipper. Alright, once you are happy with the position of your zipper, go ahead and sew along the edges. And this is how mine turned out. Now I'm going to turn this piece to the wrong side, and if you have any extra zipper, go ahead and trim that off. Then take your zipper pocket lining and lay that right side down, and then you're gonna go ahead and sew all around with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now that we've got both of our interior pieces ready to go, and of course you want to draw the 2.5 inch squares on the bottom corners, we're going to assemble the interior pieces pretty much the same way we assemble the exterior pieces. So you're gonna lay them right side together and then pin all around, starting from the seams of the facing here. You just want to match that out, and then the other side as well. And once you've done pinning, go ahead and sew the side seams and the bottom as well. However, you're going to leave about 5 to 6 inches of opening at the bottom to turn this back inside out. So here I've got my interior piece already sewn together, and this is the opening hole, and the bottom corners are already boxed as well. Now we're going to do the final assembling of this backpack. So have your exterior piece wrong side out and the lining piece right side out, and you want to make sure that your flap is inside. Then you're going to insert the interior piece into the exterior piece, just like so. So you want to make sure that the right side of your lining is touching the right side of your exterior piece. Secure them in place with the fabric clips, and I like to start from the side seams first and then make my way around it. Then you want to go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And of course, you're still going to use the denim size needle for this. You may also want to increase the stitch length. This will make it easier for your thread to go through so many layers. Once you've done sewing, go ahead and pull your lining out and find that opening hole, and then you're going to turn this piece inside out. Then you want to poke the corners with your fingers. Then I'm going to use my Hera marker to smoothen up the edges. You can also use iron. This is going to make it easier for us to top stitch it later. Now go ahead and top stitch all around. So you can top stitch this with either 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of seam allowance, whichever ones you feel more comfortable with. And I cannot stop preaching this to not rushing when you are top stitching, so just take your time because you want your top stitching to look nice. And once you've done top stitching, you want to pull your lining out and find that opening hole at the bottom, and then you want to fold that in about 1/2 inch and go ahead and sew this close. Once you've done that, go ahead and place your lining back inside. Next, we're going to attach the loop of the Velcro on the flap. So go ahead and place your flap where it should be, and then the side where it's sitting on the hook of your Velcro, you want to go ahead and put the mark over there. Then you're going to cut the loop side of the Velcro and apply the fabric glue basting on the wrong side. Then you want to place your Velcro where the mark is, and then you're going to sew this in place. So this is how mine turned out. I used the same thread as I used for quilting the flap. This way all the stitches are sort of blend in, and I didn't back stitch either, so I simply pulled the thread from the wrong side and then make a knot to secure everything, so your right side will look nice. And this is how mine turned out. So you can see on the right side you hardly can see the stitches of the Velcro, so it is a nice and clean finish. And voila, you've got yourself a new backpack. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time with another fun sewing project. Goodbye!